Greetings, I'm Dr. Al Freeman, Education Executive for the South Wisconsin District. Welcome to National Lutheran School Accreditation How-To, Standard 5 on Teaching and Learning. I'm joined by Rob Luneck
My name is Rob Luneck. I serve here in the South Wisconsin District, focusing on innovation and improvement.
and Dennis Gerke.
Dennis Gerke, the Assistant Director of Accreditation for uh, School Ministry at LCMS.
Teaching and learning, obviously, heart of any school because we're talking about academics, we're talking about constant learning and improvement of the students as well. So we see here why Standard 5 matters. Teaching and learning is the academic and educational heart of the school's ministry. If you are not performing at a high level academically, if there's not academic excellence, I always say you can miss the opportunity of ministry because families, students, will they come to your school? Will they stay at your school? So academic excellence is important to the overall ability to do ministry. Thoughts right off the start here in terms of teaching and learning?
Standard 5 is focused on the academic portions, but intertwined into that is Lutheran schools is faith integration. And that is a big part of Standard 5 because if there's no faith integration in Standard 5, your Standard 5 would look identical to a public school down the street, which you are not a public school down the street. And so we'll be looking at academics and then the faith integration into the academics.
When this section was first written, it was an attempt to bring our schools into the 21st century. And now it continues to there. A speaker once said that if you have a teacher with 30 years of experience, is it 30 years of experience or 1 year of experience 30 times? Teaching and learning is helping to move our school and be connected to educational processes and curriculum that drive what's needed for students at this time.
I think that's a great point. That's words of wisdom. I like that, the 30 years of experience or 30 years one time each year. I also say it's hard to believe we're in 2026 right now. We're approaching almost the middle of the century coming up here. We're quarter into the century. So I start thinking 21st century is way behind us. So now we're so far advanced and we're so into this century teaching and learning. Schools have changed dramatically. The ability to gain knowledge or perhaps just gain things from the internet and YouTube and all these different places has impacted our schools so significantly. The availability of information is out there all over the place, but the discernment's not. So the role of a teacher, the role of learning, I think has changed greatly and will continue to change greatly. So this Standard 5 really is pretty interesting to me in terms of how complicated it has become and will continue to be. But it's definitely faith integration throughout everything, throughout the learning process, throughout the teaching process, something that we will certainly look toward, that you should be looking at in terms of a school coordinator in this process, and the validation team will certainly look at as well. Christian education develops students in faith, wisdom, and service. I like that because that's the three areas you should be looking for as a school coordinator in this standard, and that's what the validation team will look for, the whole child, which is what Lutheran schools talk about and do so well all the time. It's curriculum and instruction, it's assessment. That assessment should reflect the integration of everything here. It's Christ-centered vision of human flourishing, of the learner flourishing. Is this a flourishing, thriving Lutheran school in this area? Required responses, again, the key questions are all laid out here. Curriculum and the framework, the documentation of the curriculum. Sometimes people struggle with this. So if you do, reach out and we'll certainly help you with that. Again, there should be evidence of that faith integration throughout the curriculum, throughout the teaching. Instructional practices. Again, there's an examination of student engagement. Are they engaged in the learning process? Is there differentiation of learners and their ability to take part in the lessons? Is there active learning? Is there effective teaching methods? Is there a multitude of teaching methods that are happening here? And what do the assessments look like? And it's not teaching to the test, but it's teaching to the learner. And it's having metrics for achievement. What do those look like? How do you know if you are successful?
The whole world of student assessment used to be a lot easier in the fact that most schools gave a standardized achievement test to all students each year, and you could do longitudinal studies of them and compare their results from year to year and subject area to subject area. Well, that whole world has changed. Now schools are using map tests and START tests, and some places are state tests that are being used, and this required response doesn't tell you what you are to use. It tells you that you need to be doing systematic evaluation, and you need to show how that assessment drives instruction.
Mm-hmm. I always like to say that you're acquiring data or information, you're interpreting that, and then you're utilizing it for school improvement. And know why you are using the assessments you're using, how you're collecting it, and then how it is driving for growth, and not just, oh yeah, we're using assessments, we're collecting the information, but it's not really being utilized. So there has to be that third element there. Required evidence checklist. Here you see 4 items, written curriculum for every grade level. So there's an expectation that there's documentation of how we're developing the curriculum. And that's changed over time too. It looks differently today than it has in the past. And that's okay, because what we're really looking for in the accreditation process is that you have rhyme or reason in terms of what you're developing, what it's trying to do with student growth and student learning, and that there's a why behind it.
Yeah, focus on that first one there, written curriculum. That doesn't mean you need a specific scope and sequence. That doesn't mean you need a specific map. You need to have this written down however you want to do that, as long as you can support that and you can show that it gets used and followed. Gone are the days, at least for now, where we required a specific type of document for this.
And just to follow up on that point, it's more than just scope and sequence. You can't just go and copy the scope and sequence out of the teacher's manual and say, this is our curriculum. It's how do you take these materials and invest them in your educational process.
It's the why and the how.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know the why behind your curriculum, then it's not really serving any purpose at all. And if you don't know how it's being delivered, then you're going to struggle. And of course, that assessment role is involved in that as well. And there you see again all the other items that are necessary, required evidence. That last one I've seen schools struggle with: analysis of standardized test results for each grade level for the past 3 years. How data is used to improve student learning is where I often see schools struggle. That they collect it, they're not really analyzing it, they're not really utilizing it to drive student learning and growth of the school. Should be an explanation of how you are doing that. Required indicators of success, again, have to be a yes, even though it says yes, no. If it's a no, you don't have it yet. Produce it before the visit happens. Make sure it's there. Teaching of the Christian faith is recognized as the major purpose. Again, that integration of faith. That's why we do things. The curriculum development, and the school curates and provides instructionally appropriate resources to support and enhance the educational program. Notice that you kind of have to describe how you do that. There's not, this is how you do it. It's all of these are really show us how it's being done, how you develop this, the why, the how, and then the interpretation of it. So all 3 have to be yeses. Again, at the bottom, the last bullet point, consult your NLSA consultant early about curriculum requirements. If you have any questions, utilize your NLSA consultant, have those questions asked and answered Don't just sit there and try to spin your wheels and work your way through it. It's much better to be accurate and spend your time on really developing the narratives and the evidence than spinning your wheels and being frustrated.
502 has two important, I think, parts of it that need to be emphasized. First, the first word written, it has to be put down, whether that's on paper and pencil or whether that's on some kind of a curriculum website or usage. And the second part is that's important to note is that all required subject areas at all grade levels. So that's a big question that comes up frequently. Do we have to have a curriculum for kindergarten PE? Yes, if that's being taught. What's being taught in your school needs to have a written curriculum.
So why do I have to have a written curriculum for, let's say, first grade PE? Why is that an expectation from NLSA?
If you are spending time to teach it in your school, you've decided it's important. And if it is important, you should be doing it well. And you should be making sure that what the kid is learning in first grade builds on what they learn in kindergarten, helps them for what they're going to learn in second grade. And if you don't have that written down somewhere, it's really hard to do that. Maybe you get a new teacher in first grade and now they're going to do something different than the old teacher. How are you going to guarantee that that was consistent for those new first graders? How are you going to prove to families that you have this mapped out and you can show them where their kid's going to be when they leave your school? For all those reasons, it's really important to have it written down.
Should be a purpose behind everything that you do in the school. And if you don't have your written curriculum for, let's say, first grade PE, how do you assess and evaluate that if the students are achieving or if I'm achieving as a teacher if I don't have that written down?
I remember going through accreditation with my school when I was a principal, and we had two classes at each grade level. And we found out that when we did the science curriculum, that all of the first through fifth grade teachers, all 10 of them, hated the rock unit and skipped it. So important part of written curriculum is the fact that you have continuity across grade levels and that you see where what is taught and how does what you teach at your grade level fit into the entire curriculum.
It really helps in going back to teaching and learning. It helps there because you're looking at vertical integration and horizontal integration. And if you don't have it written down, it's difficult to, again, show the why, the purpose, the building and developing of the child academically and spiritually in all the ways that we're called to develop the whole child in school. General indicators, again, everything is laid out for you in terms of benchmarks for each of the scores, 1 to 4. 504 is shared vision for learning. 505, challenging Christ-centered curriculum. 506, engaging instruction. So all things that we expect. 507, teacher collaboration. And how does that work and is there time for it? You know, we see a lot of schools where there's discussion of teacher collaboration, but there's no real dedicated time for that to happen, except for maybe beginning of the year meetings for teachers and end of the year meetings for teachers. But how is that developed intentionally throughout the school year? Data-driven adjustment and then technology integration. And that technology integration, again, there's a why to that, and it has to enhance. It can't just be we use Chromebooks because we're expected to have technology. Well, that's no why, that's no how, that's just doing it because people have an expectation. How is it really providing for the learning process of the students here?
Technology constantly evolving scenarios. Questions now about how much screen time should students have at every grade level from kindergarten up through high school seniors. What involvement will AI have in technology approaches? There's just important that a school discusses and understands and plans for where they are with technology at this time.
What does NLSA require here in terms of curriculum? Well, again, the written objectives, there should be learning outcomes. Faith integration must be evident. When I walk into the classroom and I see a teacher teaching should be evident to me that there's faith integration that's going on here. And it's not forced either, that there's definitely a purpose for that faith integration. We look at curriculum being a living document. Absolutely. You need to change it all the time. So it shouldn't just be, oh, here it is, and I've been doing the same thing for the last 30 years. Well, how are you making it applicable? How are you tweaking it and changing it over time? Many schools will discover in this process that there's a curriculum gap somewhere, so make sure that you address those as well. That's one of the reasons for accreditation, to see gaps, to plan for growth and improvement. And again, consult your NLSA consultant early to confirm that you're meeting those curriculum requirements before you get too deep in the process. Instructional practices, assessment systems, student achievement data, the learning environment, technology integration, academic excellence, all those are things that the validation team is looking for and that you should pull out in terms of a school. And the subcommittee working on Standard 5 should examine these things, especially that last bullet point there. What are the key performance indicators? How are you tracking achievement growth? What are the assessment results? How are they being utilized to drive improvement in instruction here in curriculum? What data informs your instructional decisions? All of that is incredibly important to going back, teaching and learning as well. All of these standards tie together. Validation team interview questions. Again, this will help you in the process of your self-study as you understand what the validation team will be asking the various focus groups here, the teachers, the students, and the administration based on curriculum. For instance, the teachers will be asked, how do you integrate faith throughout your subject area? You'll be asked maybe horizontal and vertical integration and what you're looking for there and how the teachers collaborate on that. Students, again, that number one factor, how does faith connect to what you learn in class? All of these questions should guide you in that self-study process and development, should help you in the narratives as well as you pull some of these questions out and answer them already in the narrative pieces of Standard 5. Your checklist is here as well. Collect all curriculum documents, compare instructional hours and charts against state guidelines. If your state doesn't have guidelines, it's not applicable. But note that, let the validation team know that. Here's some evidence items that might help you for 507 and 509. Again, any area that's a 1 or a 2 in your general indicators as a score must show up in your school action plan. And the final tip there, if curriculum is incomplete, create a formal multi-year curriculum development timeline with subject area ownership and milestones. All of this should be present. If you don't have your curriculum curated, developed, organized, how are you really functioning academically as a school?
The thing I'll end with is that this is accurate as of 2026. And so it's really important that you check with your ed exec, check with your district accreditation commissioner on what the requirements are in the year you're doing your accreditation. So if you're watching this in 2029, this was accurate in 2026. So I would double check with them to see if it is still this way, because there is a lot of, well, I heard it had to be this, or, you know, this school had to do this, or this team required this thing. So you want to verify what you need with your ed exec or your district accreditation commissioner before you put a lot of work into building this.
Good point.
And the South Wisconsin district actually has some guidelines for writing curriculum that located on the district's website.
Always ask questions. You know, you're better off asking. And again, this is the role of a consultant to help walk you through that process. So the consultant should be watching for these items as well and be knowledgeable of what the National Lutheran School Accreditation validation team wants to see and what you as a school need to provide. Thank you for listening to and watching Standard 5 of National Lutheran School Accreditation How To. We look forward to Standard 6 coming up